Welcome you all for the course Banking Theory, Law and Practice. Topic of this session is Internet Banking. Let me say about Internet Banking first. Banking is no longer confined in the branches as customers are being provided with additional delivery channels via ATMs, Internet banking, mobile banking, etc. Each of these channels has its own specific advantages in terms of improved customer service. Of course, you know what are all the services that are rendered by the today's banking sector and reduce the transaction cost. Out of various delivery channels, internet banking is attractive, which is taking the lead also, which is the prima facie, and has become the most popular and convenient mode of banking amongst the customers. Hence, we need to learn about the internet banking and the cause and effects of internet banking, advantages and limitations of internet banking, their mechanics, and the present scenery of internet banking in India. These things are to be learned under the topic internet banking. That's why it has been included in the syllabus of banking theory, law and practice. As a learner, you need to understand first of all, what is internet banking? Just a minute. What is the meaning of internet banking? See, banking transaction that takes place in a virtual ambience always, that you know pretty well. Virtually all the transactions that are taken place today on the website of a banking company or a financial institution, whatever it is, either bank or any kind of financial institution, which is termed as internet banking, right? The essence of internet banking lies in online access by customers banking and financial services. So we need to understand what is internet banking, what was the traditional banking also at this juncture, at this moment. Let us see now. The internet banking versus traditional banking. There are so many differences, but we need to understand what are the basic differences. The basic difference between internet banking and traditional banking is that in traditional banking, the customer has to visit the branch in person for the basic banking needs, basic banking transactions, vice withdrawal of cash or deposit of cash or transfer of funds, statement of accounts, etc. But in internet banking, the customer need not go to branch, need not visit branch. Of course, he may have a personal computer in home, and from home itself, from the place of his residence itself, he can operate all the transactions. He can perform all the transactions using the user ID and password or the PIN number given by the banker, particular banker in which he has started his savings bank account or any kind of account. In internet banking, on the other hand, these operations can be performed through the personal computers without physically visiting the bank branch. It is a win-win solution both for customer and the bank. Of course, the customer is not put to inconvenience of traveling, and the time so saved can be effectively utilized in other productive ways. Whereas the bank earns by having lower overheads, establishment, premises and maintenance cost, in turn resulting into reduced transaction cost, per transaction cost. So these are all the benefits of internet banking when compared to the traditional banking. The greatest advantage of the internet banking is that it enables a customer to perform basic banking transactions through personal computer or laptop, today mobile, located anywhere in the world. Through the internet, every customer can get all the transactions performed with the bank. Through the internet, the customer accesses the bank's website for viewing the account details or performing the basic banking transactions. With this, we would understand there are so many advantages emerging out of internet banking. What are they? Let's go and see them. The major advantages of internet banking. One is the round-the-clock service that the customer can perform basic banking transactions around the clock. All 24 hours they can do any kind of activity. No personal visit is required. Customers need not visit the branches. No personal visit to the branch is required. Anywhere operations, it is another advantage. All 24 hours at anywhere or from anywhere, one can access and operate one's account from anywhere in the world. No traditional structure. The extensive, geographically divergent traditional brick and mortar structure of the branch need not be there. The requirement of staff at branches or optimization of all requirements, staff and other materials, machineries, equipments, branches gets optimized. Easy and speedy transactions, easy, convenient, efficient, and speedy banking services, both for the bank and the customer. All databases, all databases possible in internet banking transaction is automatically taken place, reconciled, posted in all required database tables or reports. That reduces the workload, so that we need to understand these are all the major advantages of the emerging internet banking system. Let's go over the mechanics of internet banking. Try to understand the basic steps involved in completing transactions through internet banking are extremely simple and are available in a user-friendly environment. One does not necessarily need to possess detailed computer knowledge. You need not have detailed computer knowledge to complete the transactions through internet banking, but you should get some basic knowledge to operate the system, personal computer, so that you will be able to understand how to make out your internet banking transactions and all. Right? The availability of user-friendly demo version of the site as well as online help means that even first-time users are able to use the facility, do the transactions via internet banking. First-time users themselves, they'll be able to understand what are the basics. Once they come to understand what are the basics that are available with the net banking facility, this is what is called the mechanics of internet banking, which I am going to say in few words as well as in one picture which I am going to draw now for your attention. Right? Understand? First of all, the customers access the bank's website. Suppose the bank's website is given, go to website, click on the website and go to the option of net banking facility which is provided by that particular bank. Option of net banking. Then go and click in the net banking right in a particular box or the provisioned area in which enter your user ID and also below that apply your password or PIN number. Then go inside, perform the requisite transaction, whatever you required you do according to your convenience, so that you will be able to understand what are available inside. There are so many things. You can draw your statement, you can know your balance, you can understand your balance, and you come to know your beneficiaries who are to be, or whom the money is to be transferred, or from whom you are going to get the transfers and all, their names and all you enter. Your account statement of quarterly, monthly, or mini statements, annual statements, etc. How to get the statements, excelling or download, right? Or seeing it as CSV file and all. And you can also start commence your fixed deposit accounts. There are so many facilities. Once you go inside, you will come to know the bill pay services, UBPS, utility bill pay services. Then other services of the banks specifically for the benefit of the account holders in the name of electricity payment, LIC payment, or any kind of bills and mobile recharge and all, you will come to know, right? And whatever the requisite transaction you can perform, and then you can come out using the command logout. Once you come out, you need not bother about the security purpose. Bank will take care of it. Log on and log out. Log in and log out is your gateway, which opens and which closes respectively. This is the mechanics of internet banking you need to understand. Now let's see the mechanics of internet banking via a drawing, a structure, right? See here, mechanics of internet banking. Just put it like here, the customer, right? Internet service provider, internet service provider, who is named as ISP. Then accessing worldwide website, accessing worldwide website, and logging in IBS, logging in IBS, then performing banking transactions, performing banking transactions, logging out IBS, logging out IBS, then server, and finally the bank. So basic mechanics from customer to bank, what are all happening there? See, this is internet service provider whom connected first, and the customer has to use this worldwide website and logging in IBS, and whatever the transaction he require, he may be doing it, and such required transactions can be performed well using all the facilities available inside. Once completed, he may come out using logging out IBS, and server help all the connectivity. So customer, then internet service provider, worldwide site, logging, performance, logout, server helps from bank. So these services, reciprocal service, rendered by both the customer as well as the bank. So one side customer to bank, other side bank to customer, right? I hope you have understood what is here in the mechanics. What is called IBS? Try to understand IBS. IBS is equal to Internet Banking Service. Internet Banking Service. Internet Banking Service. So all of you please try to understand this mechanics is available in the internet banking. Next we go for the subsequent topics. Services that are available with the banks of all sectors across the nation and across the country, across the world, that are provided to the customers for the benefit of the customers in internet banking. That service is offered for the benefit of the customers. Internet banking service offers banking services online with the same personal effort that is received at the branch. See, what you get from branch will be offered through net, through digital mode. And online requests are processed by a proactive team of personal bankers adhering to service quality standards. So you need not bother about the quality of their operation, quality of their services and all. All these things will be provided very carefully by the bankers. What are such services offered? That's what we are going to see now. Sending request for checkbook. Sending in request for a checkbook from the convenience of home. Whatever the checkbook you want. And account statements can be viewing accounting statements online. And you can update your records through online. Notification of change of address so as to update the records. Or anything you want to update, you can update. Then requesting for a draft online to be couriered at the mailing address specified by the customer. Transferring funds. Funds transfer can be effected. Transferring funds between one account of the customer to another account of the same customer or different customers. Viewing details of past 3 months called quarterly statements, mini statements and all. And whatever the foreign exchange transaction committed by a customer can be exchanged, and for which an updation can be had from the bank regarding foreign exchange rates. Intimating online about a stop payment and notification of lost, stolen or missing ATM cards. These are all the services that are offered in internet banking. The internet banking service adds more value to NRIs who can view their balances online and also effect funds transfer just at the click of a mouse. Moreover, internet banking has no time zones and is accessible round the clock without restricting it to any geographical boundary. You can make use of it all 24 hours from anywhere else across the world. You can make use of, and you can send or dispatch the statements to somebody else whoever required, and you can also get money from others, right? These are all the services that are offered. Though number of services offered by the bankers in internet banking, we need to understand there are some drawbacks that affects sometimes the internet banking transactions. What are they? Despite the fact internet banking that has come to revolutionize the whole way the banking is transacted in modern times, it's not free from criticism. It's not free from criticism. And some of the drawbacks also exist. What are they? Number one drawback is every person needs a computer. Today, every person needs a mobile. But of course, all of the people are having mobile today in 2020. But when internet banking introduced, the people needs a computer. But everyone will not have a computer. Everyone was not having a computer at the time. In order to use the internet banking services, all the individuals needs a computer and time to log on to the website of the bank. This means that the target clientele is restricted to those who have a home PC or can access the net through the office or cyber cafes, internet cafe. The customer has to pay every time to check the balance. This can be done free at an ATM. So this is number one drawback. Number two, restricted use. Another drawback of internet banking is that it is not possible that all transactions can be carried out electronically. Many deposits and some withdrawals require the use of postal services, which can be slow and unreliable even in developed countries. Unreliable communication facility is another drawback. What is it actually? The use of internet banking requires the use of uninterrupted telecommunication facility and service, where phone connections are not perfect, and where on a home PC the modem that often gets disconnected because of the internet facility poor, and frequent and also tedious log on becomes necessary. So that the transactions gets affected. Then slow browsing. Often it becomes frustrating to browse the internet to be able to access the host of financial products that are made available in the website of the bank. Navigating around websites on home computers is often slow and frustrating. Once you go for the broadband or some other bandwidth, it will be easy and faster than others. Pages take inordinately long time to load, and as internet users have a particularly low irritation threshold, a few frustrated attempts could put the user off and quite seriously. This is because of the slow browsing, which is one among the drawbacks of internet banking. Then, lack of trust. The use of internet banking services depends much on the trust reposed by the customers of a bank on the internet banking initiative of the bank. It therefore becomes an imperative that internet startups gain the trust of depositors before they will make deposits. Understand, the customers may get less protection than with established banks. This is another alarming factor and alarming drawback also. The next is absence of validity. Absence of necessary legal framework for recognizing the validity of banking transactions is another impediment for the internet banking. And safety problem. The security threats on the internet leads to perception of internet banking as an unsafe channel. This dissuades, not persuades, dissuades the customers in making popular use of internet banking. It is to be noted that almost all of the problems mentioned here are in the nature of teething problems, and bankers are quite alive to them, and it is expected that this would be eliminated over a period of time when all the technological improvements have come forward and have to be put up to synchronize all the transactions. Right? These are all the drawbacks of internet banking. The next topic is that internet banking frauds. That's what we are going to see now. Internet banking frauds. See, internet banking, although accounts for a not so significant share of the banking business in India, is fast catching up with the banking customers. There are so many customers are attracted by the internet banking system. The younger generation is increasingly opting for net banking, for settling bills, for booking travel and movie tickets, train tickets, and virtually all types of electronic banking transactions, e-commerce, purchasing online, right from cash transfer and seeking checkbooks to passwords for debit cards. For all those transactions, the younger generation in India particularly across the country expecting to do internet banking today in 2020, they are using mobile banking and all other UPI, unified payment interface, right? With banks, including the public sector banks, urging customers to opt for net banking, it becomes a challenging task for the bankers to devise the ways and means by which they are able to shield and protect the customers from the cyber threats that are always happening. This is much more required to gain confidence of the customer. So, from all the threats and malwares, which are collectively known as internet banking frauds, the customers are to be safeguarded by the bankers. There are so many kinds of threats. When internet banking threat is the topic, we need to understand when it was introduced in the country, it was felt that having a password protected account was adequate to ensure safety. But this is no longer true. In fact, the cyber threat landscape has changed in the recent times that you know pretty well. For instance, 5 to 7 years ago, most frauds were related to identity thefts. and the techniques adopted by the fraudsters were easy to trace, and these did not involve a big money either. However, over the years, online heist has become an organized crime. The cyber attacks involve comprising a bank's database with system level implications. Internet banking frauds include malware, social engineering, phishing, and the denial of service. Let's see one by one. First of all, the malware. It is a kind of malicious software that includes viruses, worms, spyware, and Trojan horses, among others. While it is not a new threat concept, many banks still do not have adequate to reduce the risk to a manageable level, and new types of malware are introduced daily. The second is social engineering. This refers to the infringement of organizational security by influencing employees into exposing confidential information. This is mostly done by using psychological tricks to attain the employee's trust. The type of frauds that are committed in this case include obtaining the password by acting as an employee or by leveraging social media platforms to identify new employees and trap them into providing the customer critical information. This is social engineering. And phishing. The next is phishing. This involves drafting emails that attracts the recipients to visit a counterfeit website. Websites are usually designed using well-known and trusted brands to convince the individual to provide personal and financial information. Such fake websites send a malicious program or codes that gets installed on the unsuspecting user's computer and collect sensitive information such as card details. This allows cyber thieves to gather the details for future frauds. So you need to understand phishing is done through the emails and other informative platforms that attracts the people, customers, to get them inside so that steal all the information about the customers. This is what happens. Then denial of service. This is an attempt to make a machine or a network resource available to its intended users and interrupt or suspend the service. Interrupt or suspend the services. This is what also happened as a fraud in internet banking. Right? Let's see the further that the major issues in the internet banking. There is a fear always for all the people that in banking and in any other industry, the internet may destroy the basic business activities, basic business pricing models. At the same time, it also opens up abundant opportunities that pretty well there are a number of opportunities. Though we had opportunities, we had a fear also whether it interrupts our life. Disaster that come or calamity happen or anything will be done by the internet in unfavored terms. The people are in panic using it. The major issues that are relevant and relating to the use of internet in the real life situation of banking and also financial services are to be taken into consideration. These are to be discussed very extensively, elaborately. What kind of such issues? See here, number one is sustainability. What do you mean by sustainability? The internet banking creates perfect market conditions where customers have access to more information and can more readily compare rates and financial products offerings. This would pose considerable problems for banks as it would be difficult for them to differentiate the quality of service of customer service, and the charges are pricing and reliability through internet channels. This would ultimately affect the bank's sustainability as regards profit margins. So that the banks are to be very careful, keen maintaining the sustainability and all. The second major issue is no entry barriers. Internet banking has no entry barriers. This encourages even now banks to establish a physical distribution channel to successfully compete with the current banking majors. This way, internet banking makes possible new startup players to launch retail banking services more economically, more feasibly. The next is cost factor. It is another issue. Many a time the internet users face this and also the banker. The internet banking has resulted in pushing up the cost of bank operations. This may be due to the fact that banks start internet banking operations, although automate their front end process for the customers. All automation will be involved with a different amount of money investment cost, and still largely depend upon manual processes at the back end. A case in point is that the internet customers receive their statement online, but paper statements are also sent. Similarly, the customers complete account opening application online, which is sent electronically to the bank. And many banks print the account application and enter the application data into another system, thereby increasing the operational overheads. Similarly, mail and distribution costs are still necessary as statement checks, etc., are still mailed. So, cost wise, there are the issues that are to be taken into account, and which causes indirect benefit to the customer sometimes and non benefit to the bankers and vice versa. So that we need to address this kind of issue to curtail or cut short the cost and also maximize the benefit of the bank and customers. The next is dominant traditional banking. The development of internet banking allows for the efficient delivery of a wide variety of web-based banking products. It simply adds to proliferation of technology-based delivering channels such as ATMs. Now we are using it, phone banking, online banking, etc. However, the customers by and large support the traditional branch banking system. Moreover, the internet-based transactions are generally not fully automated, as the same may require additional telephone calls, paperwork, data entry, etc. So that the dominance of traditional banking that affects the internet banking today as a major issue, and no float benefit. For quite a long time, the banks have traditionally taken benefits of income from floats, the short-term use of funds during the period. The funds are allowed to reach the destination. The revenue from those resources will reduce since electronic channel like internet banking speed up the settlement processes. And the marketing challenges. The proliferation of internet banking throws a challenge to the banking and banking sector in that it warrants banks to undertake changes in current structure and functional processes so as to allow for the provision of efficient banking service. It often becomes difficult for the banks to deliver the information quickly as they are trapped by unaligned organizational structure and costly legacy systems. There are so many challenges in the marketing of all banking products because of this reason. And another major issue to be addressed is marketing advantage. Internet banking facilitates easy marketing of banking and financial products and service. For instance, it allows customers to easily compare all the products that are available in the market and come for the feasible product and sign up for all the products irrespective of location. And advantage for new players, there is another major issue. New players in the real world of internet banking would find the going advantages to them. They command a cost advantage over the older banks. This would prompt the new banks to indulge in undercutting or cut shorting, right, or declining the prices, undercutting of prices, thus paving the way for greater competition to old banks. Yes, of course, the old banks are now suffering from the competitions of the new modern private sector banks, but though the private sector banks are competing, the traditional banks and older banks are serving quite positively to the customers with belief and trust. The next major issue to be addressed is higher ratings. Generally, stock markets tend to form a conservative opinion about old banks because of their slow rate in adoption of technology. But now almost in 2020, every bank has been kept with the technology. On the other hand, the internet advantage would enable the new entrants to secure higher ratings. This would help them raise money needed for business cheaply. This way, the new banks would attack the old banks either organically or through acquisitions. These are all the major issues that are to be addressed to develop the internet banking systems. Let's go for the Indian scenario of internet banking. As regards Indian banks and financial service organizations, making use of the internet for delivering innovative and traditional financial products, there are major issues that deserve attention in India also. Number one is explicit security plan. Banking organizations should make explicit security plan and document it. Otherwise, it will fail in internet banking introduction as well as the establishment. There should be a separate security officer group that deals exclusively with information systems security. The information technology division of each and every bank will actually implement the computer systems, while the computer security officer will deal with its security. The information systems auditor will audit the information systems then and there. The next is the access control. See, the logical access controls should be implemented on data, systems, application software, utilities, telecommunication lines, libraries, system software, etc. So that the logical access control techniques may include user IDs, passwords, smart cards, or other biometric technologies. So we need to understand the access control positively. Then firewalls. The banks should use the proxy server type of firewalls so as to ensure that there is no direct connection between the internet and the bank's system. It facilitates a high level of control and in-depth monitoring using logging and auditing tools. The very next is security infrastructure. This is based on a technical world, and there is a word which is used, PKI, public key infrastructure. It is the most favored technology for secure internet banking services. However, it is not yet commonly available. And this PKI infrastructure, there are some options that are recommended. One is security log, audit trail, and penetration testing. Once you complete this alone, the Indian scenario of internet banking will be safe. The next is backup and recovery. The bank should have a proper infrastructure and schedules for backing up data. The backed up data should be periodically tested to ensure recovery without the loss of transactions in a time frame as given out in the bank's security policy. Business continuity should be ensured by having disaster recovery sites where backed up data is stored. These facilities should also be tested periodically. Otherwise, the Indian internet banking systems will be suffering from a lot of losses and misleads. The very next is monitoring against threats. The banks should acquire tools for monitoring systems and the networks against intrusions and attacks. Once you allow the intrusion, it will attack definitely. These tools should be used regularly to avoid security breaches. Unless you apply these tools, the security breaches will be many and you will not be able to exercise your control later then. Then the next is education and review. The banks should review their security infrastructure and security policies regularly and optimize them in the light of their own experiences and changing technologies. They should educate on a continuous basis their security personnel and also the end users. The next is log of messages. The banking applications run by the bank should have proper record keeping facilities for legal purposes. It may be necessary to keep all received and sent messages both in encrypted and decrypted form. When stored in encrypted form, it should be possible to decrypt the information for legal purpose by obtaining keys with owner's consent. And then certified products. The banks should use only those security solutions products which are properly certified for security and for record keeping by independent agencies. Then maintenance of infrastructure. Security infrastructure should be properly tested before using the systems and applications for normal operations. The bank should upgrade the systems by installing the patches, of course, released by developers to remove bugs and loopholes. We should not allow with the loopholes and upgrade to newer versions which give better security and control. These are to be taken care by each and every bank to tighten the security and infrastructure. Unless the malwares will happen and breaches will be continuous. Approval for iBanking. Every bank is to get the approval from Reserve Bank of India for internet banking. All banks having operations in India and intending to offer internet banking services to public must obtain an approval for the same from RBI, Reserve Bank of India. The application for approval should clearly cover the systems and products that the bank plans to use as well as the security plans and infrastructure. It should include sufficient details for RBI to evaluate the security, reliability, availability, auditability, recoverability, and other important aspects of the services. Everything will have to be done. And RBI may provide model documents for security policy, security architecture, and the operations manual. Based on that, all banks will do their internet banking systems. There are some legal issues in the Indian scenario of internet banking which are faced by the internet banking systems of all banks as major issue today. The various legal issues that emanate from the internet banking as far as the Indian banking scenario is concerned with different different legal points that we are going to see in the subsequent page. Right? Let's see. Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. the Information Technology Act 2000, the Income Tax Act 1961, the Prevention of Money Laundering Bill 1999, Consumer Protection Act 1986. Understand this? Let's see one by one the contents of these acts and how these legal issues are faced by the banks and how far these are all overcome by the banks and so on. First of all, we take into account the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. The banks are providing internet banking service at present are only accepting the request for opening of accounts. The accounts are opened only after proper physical introduction and verification. That you know pretty well. Considering the legal position prevalent, particularly of Section 131 of the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 and different case laws, there is an obligation on the banks not only to establish the identity but also to make inquiries about integrity and the reputation of the prospective customer. It may be also necessary for the banks to rely on digital signature of the introducer. So introducer's signature, introducer's consent are also to be obtained by the banks while opening the accounts of a customer. This is as per NA Act 1881. Another is Information Technology Act 2000. The present legal regime does not set out the parameters as to the extent to which a person can be bound in respect of an electronic instruction purported to have been issued by him. Generally, authentication is achieved by security procedure which involves methods and devices like user ID, password and personal identification number, code numbers and encryption, etc. that are used to establish the authenticity of an instruction. That's why every internet banking, once you start the authentication that required by the bank. And however, from a legal perspective, a security procedure needs to be recognized by law as a substitute for signature. In India, particularly the Information Technology Act 2000, in Section 3, subsection 2, that provides for a particular technology as a means of authenticating electronic record. So this is number 2, Information Technology Act 2000. This is major issue. And another is Income Tax Act 1961. See, Section 40A, subsection 3 of the Income Tax Act 1961 recognizes only payments through a crossed check or crossed bank draft, where such payment exceeds Rs 20,000 for the purpose of deductible expenses. Since the primary intention of the above provision, which is to prevent tax evasion by ensuring transfer of funds through identified accounts, is also satisfied in case of electronic transfer of funds between accounts, such transfer should also be recognized under the above provision. The Income Tax Act 1961 needs to be amended suitably in this regard. The next is Prevention of Money Laundering Bill 1999. The concern that internet banking transactions may become a conduit for money laundering has been addressed by the group. Such transactions are initiated and concluded between designated accounts. Further, the proposed Prevention of Money Laundering Bill 1999 imposes obligation on every banking company to maintain records of transactions for certain prescribed period. The Banking Companies Period of Preservation of Records Rules 1985 that also require banks to preserve certain records for a period ranging between 5 to 8 years. The group is out of the view that these legal provisions, which are applicable to all banking transactions, whether internet banking or traditional banking, will adequately take care of this concern, and no specific measure for internet banking is necessary. Hence, we need to concentrate to resolve the issues of Prevention of Money Laundering Bill, what says and what is happening. Is there any gap that has to be found out and that gap is to be removed? Then finally, the Consumer Protection Act 1986, which is the legal issue. The Consumer Protection Act 1986, that Act 1986 defines the right of consumers in India and is applicable to banking services as well. Currently, the rights and liabilities of customers availing internet banking services are being determined by bilateral agreements between the banks and the consumers. It is open to debate whether any bilateral agreement defining customers' rights and liabilities, which are adverse to consumers than what is enjoyed by them in the traditional banking scenario, will be legally tenable, right? And considering the banking practice and rights enjoyed by customers in traditional banking, it appears the banks providing iBanking may not absolve themselves from liability to the customers on account of unauthorized transfer through hacking. The IT Act 2000 in Section 72 that has provided the penalty for breach of privacy and confidentiality. Further, Section 79 of the Act has also provided for exclusion of liability of a network service provider for data traveling through their network subject to certain conditions. The issue of ownership of transactional data stored in banks' computer systems also needs further examination. So, with this, we need to find out what are all the issues that are governed by what kind of act and what is said in the act, what is the provision, how to resolve everything. The banks are to address very carefully every major issues, particularly the legal issues. The further outlook of internet banking is expected to grow as the customers become more familiar and more comfortable with internet transactions. This would require banks to extend the functionality and content on their website, moving beyond the basic services to more personalized services and sales. As many banks have launched internet sites globally, banks can no longer differentiate by having themselves an internet presence, right? So that all banks are expected to provide the value added services, other value added services like online banking, completing online credit card application, online transactions for peculiar products, and even bill payment may become industry standards over a period of time. The future of internet banking lies in offering personalized internet-based services, that are not only valued by their customers but are also unique to them. This would help distinguish themselves from the crowd. This would also help them evolve continuously to meet customers' needs, capitalizing on new technology to build stronger customer relationship. Put it in a nutshell, the internet banking is emerging as an effective delivery channel for banks. Mobile banking is also emerging now as even more efficient channel, which is all set to explode as the number of mobile users are increasing exponentially across the globe. Hence, all the banks are required to keep in touch with the customers, providing the valuable services and also help them through the personalized services via digital payment system and digital receipt system. And they have to enhance all the facilities across the country, even to the villages, so that the internet banking will be shining in front of all the customers and also in front of other nations, in India particularly. So that I need to say the bankers in India are to concentrate more on the provision, extension, and expansion of the internet banking service for the growth and development of the individuals as well as the national economic development. This is what the further outlook, and I hope you would have understood what is internet banking and what are the nuances, basics, mechanics, and drawbacks, major issues, and so on. I hope you would have learned something about the internet banking. In the subsequent classes, we tend to see the recent trends in the banking sector. Wish all the best. Take care.